Hi there. If we haven't yet met, I'm Leah Simon. I'm the founder of the Box Co. and the creator of the Comeback Box. And I built the box to make personal development accessible and approachable and affordable to everyone. And I've met so many amazing people along my journey. I'm bringing someone on every week to unbox their expertise for you. And today I'm super excited because video has become so important and integrated into our personal and our professional lives. And it was something that, as a new founder, I was very shy with. And someone who's really helped me is one of my oldest and dearest friends, Kelsey Starks, who's joining me today. She is a television host and now a media coach, and she has so many helpful tips on how to build confidence on camera. So Kelsey is here. Hi. Hi, Eileen. I see you. Okay, so Kelsey, you should be able to join. And if anybody has any questions, you can just go into the little question icon and it'll send it right to us. Hi.
Oh my gosh, this is my first Instagram Live.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes, I'm so excited. Well, first, I'm so excited I figured it out.
You look great.
And
Can you hear me okay? You're kind of quiet, but
Am
I can.
Okay.
Now I can hear you great.
Is that better? Okay.
I turned it might have been me. I turned up my thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm super excited about I get a filter.
Oh yeah, you can do filters. There's tons of fun stuff.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. So I introduced you super quickly, but if you just want to share who you are, just in case anyone doesn't know you, that'd be great.
Of course, I would be glad to. I have known Leah since she was 5 years old, I think, right? About first grade, maybe kindergarten. So we go way back. We grew up together, small town Kentucky, and we were both in drama and dance and all kinds of art related things. And then I went on to become a news reporter and anchor, and kind of moved all around. Leah moved around as well. We all kind of went all over the country, and but we have stayed very close and in touch, and which has been great with our little core group of girlfriends from way back in the day. So, but now, so I left my job as a morning show host about 5 years ago when I had my third baby, and the 2 a.m. alarm clock was a little much. And so now I'm doing media coaching and training, and that started with a couple corporate clients that I had wanting to do media relations and public relations training and on-camera coaching. And so I started kind of doing that with some companies here in town. I live in Louisville, and now I'm doing some video coaching for individuals and entrepreneurs and anybody else who wants to figure out how to do this crazy video thing that now, like, it kind of worked out that this year has been everybody's all of a sudden doing happy hour on Zoom and working on Zoom and teaching on so I think it's really important that people not only learn professionally how to look professional on camera, but really how to feel comfortable enough on camera so that you can effectively communicate.
Yeah, I mean, it is everywhere. Like personally, professionally, as a new founder, I built a product and I thought it was going to be about the product. I had no idea how much people were going to want to see me. And so the first few months of the company, like I wasn't on here at all. And I kept getting all these questions, all these requests, and I was very shy. And, Kelsey mentioned we grew up doing, theater and plays together. I was just talking to my mom last night about we used to take like all the Disney musicals and perform them in my
You're not going to
garage.
show a video now, are you?
No, I don't have a video. But I did ask Mom if she had a video. But we used to set up chairs and we would invite the neighborhood kids and we would charge them. We were very early entrepreneurs. But why I bring this up is that even though I did plays growing up, people would ask, like, why are you so shy? And I think it's very different, like doing a play and being on a stage and being a character, than this, which is very vulnerable. Like you're just being yourself. And I think it's challenging.
It is. It really is. And it's, you know, I think it is just putting yourself out there and being able to feel comfortable enough to talk like you're talking to a real person. It's inherently uncomfortable. You're talking to a device. So it's absolutely like not anything that it should be inherent to anybody. So that's why, you know, I try to teach how to first of all, set up equipment wise, you know, so that you feel comfortable enough knowing you're kind of doing it right, at least. And then there are just techniques and tricks that I've learned along the way that kind of just help you be yourself talking to a device. And so I think it's really important, but I'm really excited to talk about the box.
Oh, right. Okay. So Kelsey is doing the comeback box, and I have wanted to, oh, you have it. Yeah. I've wanted to reach out to her, but I wanted to save it for the live. So one of my oldest and dearest friends, what do you think? How's it going?
Well, I've told you this. I am so very impressed. You know, well, I'll kind of talk a little bit about what we were saying with doing a product on camera too. When you first told me about it, you told like all of us girlfriends, and we were all like, wait, what? You made a box? What? And it's a hard thing to explain. And when I was thinking about, you know, weaving the whole video into this conversation, I thought about a client I had a while back who also had a product. And, you know, there are particular products that it's not like, well, it's an iPhone, you know what it does, you know, it's not that simple. And so to explain something, you really, I mean, these are the instances where you really do need video. And so the client that I had was, Keeper, you know, with the little purse and the little wristlet. Yes. And she had such a hard time, and you know, trying to relay, is it a keychain? Is it a wristlet? Is it a purse? What is it? And so you really need it to be on video. And so we started doing videos of the product, but I was like, you know, you need to tell your story. She was like you know, an entrepreneur and a mom, and she found a problem and made a solution for it. And I was like, talk about that. And I think that's exactly where you kind of mentioned you were, that people were like, well, who's behind this? And I think especially something like this product, because going through it right now, I'm on day 11, and you're very, like, it's very personal to you because you're speaking in first person to the person who reads the cards. And so it's like, I'm asking you to do this. I read this book and learned this, or I remember this movie and it made me think of this, and here's how you can, you know, so it's very personal. And so that's why I think it's really important that people do get to know you as kind of the voice of who's speaking to them in this, you know?
Yeah, I did it intentionally. I intentionally wrote it in first person because I wanted anyone going through it to feel like they had someone with them, that they had a partner. You know, people do this at various stages. Some people have had a setback and they're really looking to get back up, and I wanted someone, you know, to feel like they had someone with them. at
Mm-hmm.
that point. Some people are just looking for self-discovery. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was really important. But to your point, yeah, people want to know who's making this. And
Yeah.
I think it's super relevant to this product, but I also think for most companies that I've read, it's really important because we're now all on Instagram and doing this. Everyone wants to know the founder of anything, whether you're making hair gel or,
Yeah.
the comeback box.
Well, that's
So,
why the product, like just product video, you don't just see like a purse laying there. You see somebody like using the purse, like even in commercials, like we crave human interaction. And if we haven't
right.
figured it out after this past year, I mean, we do. So you want to see that person or hear that story. And I think you've managed to make it very personal. And I am, like I said, just started, I'm like on the second week of the box, and I have absolutely been blown away. I think it's fantastic. I think it's just so well done, and um, just kind of a right balance of introspective and I don't know. It's just kind of exciting every day to see what's going to happen next. And I've really enjoyed it. And especially as a mom and, someone who doesn't really take a lot of time to do things for myself, I
Mhm.
think it's a really great, tangible thing that you're able to set aside time to do. So I usually try to wake up before everybody else in the hustle and bustle of stuff. And so that's when I've chosen to do it. And it only takes a few minutes, but then it's kind of something that I think about throughout the day. And so
Yeah.
whatever it is that I read about, it's kind of something I can reflect on for that entire day. So it's been a great way to start my day. It's been really great to just have that kind of time to think about myself, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you saw, I think you're following the stories, but I built the box to help everyone take care of themselves and then launched the company and realized I stopped taking care of myself. So I'm actually
Oh,
doing
yeah, sorry, you're doing it
so
again. Yeah.
I'm doing the box myself now. And one day I missed it. And what I realized is it is this very tangible visual reminder of, am I taking 5 minutes for myself each day? And when I missed it, it's just creating a really nice way for me to make sure every day I'm checking in on myself for at least 5 minutes. So,
Yeah, it's like if you don't have
yeah,
time for 5 minutes for yourself, what are you doing? So
exactly.
and I too I've missed a day here or there, and it's like, oh gosh, and so then I kind of get back on track. But it's good. It's a good habit, and I'm just happy I know the founder.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing it. It means a lot to me, and I want to continue to hear about your journey. But while we're here today, if anybody has a question for Kelsey, like this is a really unique opportunity to talk to a television host and media coach, you can hit that little question icon and it will send it to us. Hi, Eileen. Eileen says, say hi. Hi, Matt. Um, so, okay, let's just start with, what do you think makes us uncomfortable, and how do you think we can get over that fear?
That's a great question, because that's the number one thing, and that's the first thing I talk about in my classes and my trainings is people have an inherent fear or nervousness, shyness. They're embarrassed to be on camera or put themselves out there, and it is, like I said, it's not inherent to anybody. It's weird, and but there are two things that I usually talk about. And the first is kind of knowing what you're doing, first of all. Like if you really can do some research at some point to feel like, I'm this is the best lighting I have. This is the best possible camera. I know my sound sounds good. You know, those kind of technical checklists that you can do to at least feel like you know what you're doing is going to make you a little more confident. And the second is just being prepared. And a lot of people think when you get on here, and this is kind of a different thing because we know each other and we are really having like a off the cuff conversation, but people, when they are recording a video or whatever, you know, they kind of have this feeling like, well, I want to be conversational, so I'll just talk. But that's like the worst thing you can do. You've got to really think about how you're going to speak on camera, because your audience's attention span is a lot shorter when they're watching a video. They're used to swiping and, you know, Xing out and whatever. And so you really have to learn how to get your message across in a clear, concise way that's really going to kind of hit their ears in a way that they can take in your message. And that's just a technique that you can learn to talk on video. It's a lot different than if you're writing a blog or you're sending an email. It's just a different way of communicating. And so so I would say those two things. If you can kind of check the technical boxes, you're going to feel more confident. And then when you're prepared, and really, I would say a third thing, and probably the most important, is just practice. I mean, you probably know, like you said, you were really nervous the first time you started doing these types of videos. It's a lot easier now, right?
Yes, completely. And I mean, I love what you're saying. I think there's two things. Like, I learned a distinction, which is there's confidence and there's competence. So confidence is believing that you can. Competence is knowing how to do it. And I think they feed off of each other. Like, you have to have the confidence to take the leap. But then once you have the competence, it feeds your confidence. Like you're saying, you know what you're doing. You're prepared. Some of the things that I've started doing is I go on a walk before the interviews and I think through what I want to talk about, what are the questions I want to ask. I have Post-it notes. So right now behind you, I have quick Post-it notes of reminders of things I wanted to ask you or bring up. Because when you get on here, there's a lot of adrenaline, and the talk that I had perfectly planned on the walk doesn't
always come out the same.
And I think the practicing, you know, is very important. I did a couple of these just with my sister before I ever, and just doing that gave me a lot of confidence to try it publicly for the first time.
Well, that's what I tell people too, to just, you know, I mean, everybody has a phone or something you can record video on, you know, do a couple just for your eyes only. Like, you don't have to share it with the world. You don't have to, you know, post your first thing, but, you know, start doing it a little bit yourself and just get comfortable, because that's really the only way to do it, is to just practice makes perfect, like anything else. You know, you don't like jump in the swimming pool and know what you're doing immediately. It's the same thing. Like, you've got to learn to swim.
Yeah, I also think that now, especially on lives and things like that, people's expectation isn't for this to be a produced broadcast show. Right. You know, that you talk a lot about being real, you know, and I think people are expecting that and they're okay with that. And if you embrace that it doesn't have to be perfect, that can that made me more comfortable as well.
Well, I tell you what is one thing, when somebody told, I don't know who told me or when I learned this, but there was a talk at some point about like we did live shots. I mean, you still see live shots on the news or whatever, and they're live, even if they're like outside of a hospital and nothing's happening. They're just live to be live, you know? And I there was some discussion at some point, like, why do we have to be live? I don't get it. Like, couldn't we just, you know, send in a video? This isn't the story, me standing in the middle of traffic or whatever, you know? But and somebody was like, people love live because there's a chance something could go wrong and they're going to see it happen. I'm not kidding. And people really do. They like people are probably watching this waiting to see if one of us is going to screw up, you know, or they want to see like the train go off the tracks or something. There's something like innate about a live, like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Something, you know, in people, I guess. And so, especially now, I think that there's all these opportunities for people to be live and, you know, wherever they are on social media. When you see it pop up like so-and-so's live, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to watch that. Right. And then if it's like Kelsey posted a video, people are like, keep scrolling. You know, and I don't, but it's like a human.
I never thought about that
thing.
If anybody missed me bumping my lamp, you can go back and watch the replay. It was a really exciting moment.
And I don't mean like people are like rooting for you to screw up, but it's like something in the human brain of just like I guess it's more of the, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, like it's.
I mean, I believe in the good in people.
I do too.
And I do think that, to the first thing you said, I mean, that's why we're watching reality television and things like that. I mean, there is something inherent about seeing other people's struggles or fumbles.
Yeah.
That makes you feel more human.
Right.
So if you could mess up a few times today,
say a cuss word or get real crazy. I mean, earlier today, I was doing a live for this challenge I'm doing, and I had my son at my mom's house to get him out of the house. Well, lo and behold, I hear he has casts on his legs. So I'm in the basement here in my little office, and I hear clunk, clunk, going down the stairs, and I was like, oh my gosh. And you're in the middle of the lot, and he comes around the corner and he's like, hey Mom, where's my Mario toy? I was like, what are you doing here? So, you know, you never know what's going to happen. So that's what makes it interesting and fun.
Yes, I loved the videos you posted where you managed to record an episode but it didn't record, and then I saw the next day you recorded but there was no sound.
Yeah. This happened this week and last week. I don't know. Last week there was like a full moon or something, so I tried to blame it on that. I was like, oh, that crazy pink moon. It must have. Well, similar thing happened this week. So I record a show here in my basement office because that's, you know, we used to go to the studio downtown, but we're still at home. So we've done pretty well with it so far considering the circumstance. But I record it, I download the files, I send them on to the producers, and then they edit it or whatever. And I've really never had this problem. But last week when I went to send the files, my phone where I recorded ran out of space naturally. And so I was trying to delete the past ones, and I got a little like trigger happy. I was like, delete, confirm, delete, confirm, delete, confirm. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I just deleted today's. So I had to call the producers and be like, can we do the record again? I totally like just deleted everything. And luckily they were very nice and said, sure, you know, no problem. It was right after it had happened. So, you know, I hadn't like gotten out of my makeup or anything, God forbid, you know.
Right.
So, and then, so I was like, well, I'll never do that again. Lesson learned. Right. And then, this week we record on Tuesdays, and we recorded the whole thing. I double checked. I was like, I'm never making that mistake again. My microphone's plugged in. I went back to watch them when I was uploading them, and they all recorded, but with no sound. And so I was like, what? So I had to call the producer. I was like, oh, hey, you know, my files don't have any sound on them. And they were like, what's happening with you? And but it does go to show, like, things happen. But the point is, like, this is my lesson on fear all the time. Like, what are you most afraid of? You being on camera, okay? Like, are you scared you're going to say the wrong thing? Are you scared you're going to forget to say something you were supposed to? What is your real? Are you scared what people are going to say about you or think about you? So try to really think about those fears, and then it's not, it's not life or death. I mean, like, the
Sure.
worst thing that can happen isn't that bad, So,
Right.
so again, going back to, the snafus I had last week and this week, yeah, it sucked that I had to like record them again, but big deal. Like,
Sure.
move on, record a new one and move on, and new day,
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think facing your fear, getting present to your fear, and getting comfortable with what's the worst that can happen and doing it anyway,
Yeah.
that's where courage is. That's where growth is.
Mm-hmm.
I also have started sort of visualizing it all going really well.
Yes.
So in advance, I visualize the whole thing just going wonderfully.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's law of attraction, there's manifestation, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that really puts me in a zone of it challenges that fear. And it's like, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's part of what I teach people to do too. Like, envision it going really, really well. Envision the best. And then kind of in the back of your mind, prepare for the worst. Like, what really is the worst thing that can happen? And I guarantee if you figure out, like, gosh, I'm really, really worried I'm going to forget to say this part of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you've already thought about that, you're not going to forget it,
Right.
like, so just kind of already figuring out what is your real, what is that fear is whatever. I mean, think about, like, if somebody, you're worried what people will say about you, or like your ex-boyfriend is watching or something like that. Like, so what does that mean? Like, nothing.
Sure. Sure.
So who cares,
I do think, and I want to get to, so I've just taken Kelsey's boot camp challenge, and I want her to tell all of you about it. I do think, before we get into the functional things, because you have so many great tips, the mindset is so important, and that this imposter syndrome and what everyone is going to think about you. Who does she think she is or he is? I do think it's a big part of it. And I wonder, you have been on television for years, but for someone new, do you have any tips on how do you get over what your whole community is going to think about you?
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for that?
No, and I mean, I still have that, like, imposter syndrome. I mean, that's like a real thing. I mean,
you were like an anchor of a show.
Well, there's one thing, like, being on TV and reading the news. I mean, like, yes, I'm comfortable in front of a camera, sure, but I certainly don't want to come across like, well, I look great on camera. Look at me, So, I mean, you're like, oh gosh, is that tacky? Like, if I'm like telling people how to look good on camera, well, it's not about, that my hair is perfect or I have a makeup artist, because I don't, but it's just that comfort on camera. And so yeah, I think getting over the imposter syndrome is just important to recognize your expertise, like, know your genius zone, and know, what you're not out there to tell everybody, like, you are the one and only who does it better than everybody else. It's just about, like, hey, here's some stuff that I know and I think you can use. And it's just like talking to a friend, and think about it like that, like talking to a friend over drinks. Hey, look, I've done this for a long time. Here's some of the tricks that I use.
Yeah.
Maybe you could use them too. So I guess that's kind of how I think about it.
I mean, this was a huge hurdle for me because I created a personal development product, and I in no way wanted people to think that I had this perfect life where nothing ever goes wrong. And I created this product to help you boost your confidence, and I must have all the confidence in the
Right.
world. You know, so that was a big hurdle for me. One thing that I heard that's really helped me is if you are 5 steps ahead of someone else, you can help them. You
Yeah.
don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a New York Times bestseller or own $1 billion company. If you can help one person a day because you're just a little bit ahead of them or know something in an area they don't know, then you have something to give and you have something to share.
Right. I mean, that's just the advice you give friends, you
Yeah.
know? So how perfect that we're friends sharing advice.
I know. And Kelsey has helped me so much throughout this, and is hi Kirk. Is Kirk is here.
Oh, you knew Kirk was going to join.
Yeah, how we doing, Kirk? Let us know. Kirk is Kelsey's dad and also a television personality, so he knows all the tips and tricks. I'll have to bring him on another week. So functional tips and tricks. There's how you set up. There's the lighting. Where should we begin? Do you want to talk about just how do you pick the right spot?
Okay, so what we kind of went through, and I hosted a challenge, or I'm in the middle of this challenge this week. And so I kind of break it up into 3, I call it the 3 L's because I'm a fan of, but so I talk about location, lighting, and looks, just because it's an easy way to kind of think about when you're getting ready to go on to check those boxes. Location, you obviously want to find a place that tries to limit distractions, which is easier said than done. But it plays into your lighting too. You obviously want to have the best lighting possible, and that's usually, if possible, facing a window, which we talked about. And a lot of people too are just like in their office or in their, you know, wherever their computer is, that's like, well, that's where my camera goes. And
Right.
you've just got to get like kind of think outside the box and be creative a little bit and move around. And 9 times out of 10, it's somebody moving from like here to here. And it
Right.
makes like a ton of difference because they're facing a window and or their background looks a lot better.
Sure.
Like I'm in this like weirdo corner of my basement, which is my kids' playroom, and I mean it's a disaster. And but I like cleared this one little corner, and then I have it set up so there is a corner, so I have a little depth behind me, and that helps too.
Okay, so not being backed up against a wall, having something.
I always say like when, you know, a lot of people like will be like just against a wall that's blank. And
Right.
I always say it looks like a hostage video. Here I am, you know, so, you know, you want it to be like interesting, but not distracting. And the main thing with all of it is that your content and what you're saying is the most important thing. Your message is the most important thing. And so whatever is distracting from that is what you've got to get rid of. And that's like a virtual background. That's distracting. It just looks weird. You know, you're not broadcasting from the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever, you know?
Yes, the other thing about the background is when you move, it
just looks weird.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, it's distracting. So I always tell people to try to avoid those and you know, find your best lighting, and then camera angles are huge too. A lot
Let's
of people,
talk about those.
when they're, you know, again, if they're have a webcam on their laptop or their computer, they're usually like just looking down at it. Well, that means your audience is like looking up your nose. You look like you have a double chin. It's just not a good look.
Right.
So if you can just raise your camera to eye level, it makes
Uh-huh.
a huge difference. And so that just means like putting a few books underneath your
Yeah.
computer, or like raising the tripod if you're like using a handheld thing. It's a simple fix, but it makes a really big difference.
When I would be on Zoom meetings, I'd put my laptop on top of a tissue box, like my
Perfect.
box of
Yeah.
tissues.
Yeah.
Um, and that also let me stand up because sometimes those meetings are so long, and to just sit there without being able to move, to stand up, it helped me.
Yeah.
Okay, so it should be, so right now, you can like, if you want to give me feedback in real time.
You look great, I think.
Oh, thank you. So my phone is just slightly higher.
Yeah.
The other thing, if anyone hasn't done a live before, it's a little tricky because when you start the live, you have one angle, but then when the other person comes on, it compresses you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I learned is you have to be in the middle of your screen so that when the other person comes on, you end up
In the
in the
right place.
right part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good tip for me because this is my first Instagram live.
You're set up perfectly.
Yeah.
Like you've got space below and space above. Okay, so at eye level or slightly above?
Well, the thing is, slightly above is better than slightly below. And
Okay.
your true eye level is a little above where you think it is. So, if you like think, oh, well, my eye level's right here. Well, it's real, like, it's kind of like when you try to measure yourself on like the tall wall. It's like you can't do it yourself. You have to
Okay.
like use a ruler or something straight. So yes, what you think is eye level is probably a little below where it should be.
Right. And then something else that I find tricky about these is like right now you're below me on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
but my camera is on the top.
Mm-hmm.
So if I look at you, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
looking at the camera, but if I look at the camera, I can't. So where should we be looking?
So this is interesting, and I'm kind of learning this. I think that, well, first of all, yes, you should try to look at the camera lens. And,
Like so this is me looking at the camera.
it's really hard to do. But I think on Instagram, because one of my students asked me this. She said, well, when I was on Instagram, it didn't look that different. And it doesn't to me. It maybe looks like you're looking a little below the lens right now, but not much. I think some
No?
of these,
Okay.
like, social media things are like work in a way that it doesn't look that maybe it's the filter thing that like your eyes don't look that off when you're
Okay.
like, I don't know, it doesn't look that strange to me when you're looking at me. But in general, yes, you should try to look at the camera lens. Like if you're in a Zoom meeting or whatever and you're giving a presentation, it's really hard not to look at the human faces because
Right.
again, our brains are wired for that human connection, and you want to talk to a face instead of like a little black abyss. So I tell people a lot of times, if you need to like put a post-it or a piece of paper over the screen, or if you can't like not look at yourself while you're talking, because it's
Right.
hard, like your brain is just wired to look at a human face. And
Yeah.
so sometimes, and somebody told, one of my students said that they put a little piece of, no, they put a picture over their phone screen of their kids. So they're like, they feel like they're talking to somebody they love.
Oh, that's a great tip. And I
Yeah.
love the
So
post-it too because it is like when you go to a restaurant and you end up being seated in front of a mirror and then you're like watching
yeah,
yourself
you're
having
like,
dinner the whole time. Yeah. And
yeah.
even though we're not vain, it's hard not to keep checking yourself
It's
out.
a huge, it is. It's like your brain is wired to want to look at human faces, even your own. I mean,
Yeah.
other than something else. So yeah, that's a few tips with that.
That's great. So we talked about location, we talked about lighting. What was the last one?
Looks, and that is those camera angles and
Okay.
framing and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's again really simple things that can make a really big difference.
That's amazing. Any sort of like common mistakes or missteps that you see sort of like don't do? I know you talked about like trying to avoid the fake backgrounds. Any other kind of common missteps?
Yeah. Well, some of the biggest one, like I said, the, not propping your camera up to eye level or turning towards a window. But as far as content and presentation, the biggest thing is, well, like I mentioned earlier, just being clear and concise in your messaging and how to script and kind of like bullet points and know the main points you're going to say. Because here's another thing, people tend to ramble when they're on video. I mean, you just kind of keep talking, especially like it's a lot easier now because we're talking to one another. So if I stop talking, you're going to start talking. But when you're like recording a video or doing something alone, you can
Right.
just go off the rails. And that's
Right.
another like human brain type of thing. And that this is like an interview technique I learned a long time ago, that if you're interviewing somebody and maybe they give you like the canned answer that you don't really want and you want them to say more,
Right.
if you're just silent and you're like,
Don't keep talking.
somebody will talk. Like it's so
Yeah.
awkward. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to sit there in silence.
Right.
So if you just stop talking, they're going to start talking. And so if you kind of flip that and think about if you're doing a video or something on your own, you're going to want to fill the silence. And so
Right.
you just sometimes keep going and saying the same thing over and over and over and end up rambling on. And it's just to fill space. So if you can think of your main points, know how to say them clearly, concisely, and still be compelling with them, then, that's the best way to be effective.
Okay. Perfect. And then to flip that for a second, if you're interviewing someone and they start to ramble, as someone who's, professionally interviewed people for years, how do you kind of get it back on track or interrupt them without being rude?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I've been in that situation so many times. But a lot of times, well, you're also I'm a very expressive with my eyes. So, I can be like, mhm. And like, I mean,
Like
if they're
wrap it
paying any
up.
attention, they're like, oh, well, she's losing interest, or, like she needs to move on or whatever. So, and it's sometimes you just got to jump in and interrupt. And
Okay.
the best way to do it without being rude is to just acknowledge what they're saying first and say, I love how you just said that. That's perfect. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I love talking to you. So
Right.
give them a little ego boost so they don't feel like you're totally cutting them
Okay.
off. But
Okay.
that's a little trick I use.
Okay. That's great.
Sorry if I've ever used it on you.
No, not at all. I'm doing this to try and bring on experts like yourself and share your knowledge, but I have never been an interviewer before. And when people, get nervous, whatever, they do tend to kind of go on.
Yes, they
So,
do.
as we do, it's human, right?
It's totally, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to be respectful of your time. I would love, though, for you to chat a little bit about this amazing challenge that I just took and how people can work with you if they're looking for more confidence on camera.
Yeah, thanks. So this challenge has been so fun. This is the first time that I've done like every day in a week challenge and kind of broken it up into little lessons. It's been great. And I asked everybody to do like a before picture, and then today they're sending in their after pictures, and it's so cool just to see how far they've come. And so we're wrapping it up tomorrow with a big free workshop, and it's all about taking kind of what you've learned and putting it into action. So, we talked a lot, like I mentioned today, about the camera angles and the lighting and the location background, sound hacks, that kind of stuff. And so I'm tomorrow going to introduce kind of the next level, which is being, taking all of that and putting it into action and really optimizing your performance on camera. And that's like your messaging and how you're going to pitch yourself and how you find your audience and how you connect with your audience. And so it's kind of the real meat of when you're communicating on camera. And so that is my first group coaching program, which is getting ready to open for enrollment. So that's exciting.
Amazing. I'm taking this course with Kelsey, and what I really love about it is how this is overwhelming. Like, yes, I've been doing it for a few months, but it's the same reason I built the box. I think a lot of personal development courses and seminars can be overwhelming. And so I wanted to break it down into small steps in a certain sequence. And I'm just asking for 5 minutes a day. And I feel like that's exactly what you're doing in your challenge is you're taking something that's very overwhelming and you just had us do one little step a day. And I can tell that it's very intentional how you've designed the steps so that we're building off them each day. And then you get to the end and it wasn't so scary. There you are. So I love how you've done that. And if people are interested in it, where can they find you? How can they reach you?
You can go to my website. It's kelseystarks.com, and I have all the information there, and it's great. And even if you did not do the challenge this week, you can still join the free workshop tomorrow, and all those details are on my website as well.
Amazing.
Well, I have to say, I know you're wrapping things up, but I'm going to interrupt you because I am so dang proud of you and this box, and thank you for sharing it with me and everybody else, and it's really great. And so I think it especially if anybody's watching because of the on-camera stuff, the first step we talk about is feeling confident on camera, which we kind of touched on, but you're really not going to be confident on camera until you're really comfortable in your own skin. And I think, that's something the box kind of helps you do, and something that you learn more about yourself and how to be comfortable and kind of just like get to know yourself again. And so if you feel like you've kind of lost track of that, I think that's a great, it's just a great way to be a little introspective and meet yourself. And then you're going to be more comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. It means so much to me that you're enjoying it. I want to keep hearing about your journey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think every time I go through the cards, like I am rediscovering, and that was my why that I wrote on the inside of the lid is reconnecting with myself, remembering myself in a way. It's been a year. It's been quite the year.
It's been a year.
It's been a year. I just read this quote from my yoga instructor, which is, some years ask questions and some years give answers. And I loved that.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of year 2021 will be.
Oh gosh, I tell you what though, I mean, I'm, kind of a bit of an optimist. So I, look at what has come out of this past year too, I mean, the Box Co was not a thing prior to this. So, there are some silver linings, and I think we all just can learn a lot from everything that's happened this year.
Yeah. I do think that it gave us all a lot of time to reflect on ourselves, on our lives, and there has been so much new created. More businesses were started this past year. So I do think there's a lot of silver linings.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Sure.
Anything else you wanted to share today?
Anything else you want to share? I mean, I really like being the interviewee instead of the interviewer.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah,
Well,
it's fun.
you are welcome anytime.
Okay.
Welcome to come back anytime. I love chatting
All
with
right.
you. Okay, well, thank you so much, friend, and thank you
Thank
to
you.
everyone who joined us today.
Yeah.
And I will talk to you soon, my dear.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.